Chapter 13. Days later, while I was still fretting and fuming at being denied visitation with my son, I was surprised by a call from Lenita, a friend from the past. In a tearful voice, she said, "Quibus was involved in a car crash and he wants to see you, Irina. He says he's gonna die, Irina." What? Now, Quibus was a fellow South African, Lenita's boyfriend. He was also a friend of Tom's. And he wants to see me, Lenita? Yeah. I was confused that Quibus would ask for me at a time like that. I mean, he wasn't my friend, he was Tom's friend. Lenita, what did Tom say about this? No. Quibus says you must not let Tom know about this call, Irina. Oh, really? Why is that? I don't know, Irina. Just come, please, just come. Okay, sure, I will do that, Lenita, sure. I disliked Quibus. He was a thug, a bona fide misogynist who treated Lenita with disrespect in public. His heavy tattoos, skulls, snakes and blood drops, they didn't help. Rumor had it that Quibus, who made frequent visits to the bathroom, then returned in an upbeat mood, was also into stolen artworks and bulk carjacking. He and Tom, they had absolutely nothing in common. So, why were they friends? It was a total mystery to me too. I looked at the time. It was 6 p.m. Bear would be home very late, and I had nothing to do. But I didn't feel like leaving the house. Maybe I will go tomorrow, I thought. But Lenita's words about me not telling Tom confused me and sparked my interest. Why? Tom was Quibus's friend, not me. After a few minutes of pondering, curiosity got the better of me. I drove to the hospital to see Tom's dying friend who I had no real connection with. Boy, was I shocked when I saw Quibus. He had a huge bandage on his head, and he was hooked up to about 4 menacing machines. He was also receiving a blood transfusion, and his face, it was bloated, almost unrecognizable. When he saw me, he flicked his finger at me. I slowly walked forward. "Hey, Quibus, you look well, man," I said, trying to make light of the situation. "You sure you're not faking it?" He didn't respond to my joke. Instead, he sent Lenita out of the room, removed his oxygen mask, and in a heavy South African accent blurted, "Tom killed Sasha." I gasped. What? Tom did it. Quibus, how do you know this? Because I helped him. As I stared at Quibus, my knees began to wobble, my mouth turned dry, and I had to hold on to his bed rail to stop myself from falling down. "Warren's next on the list, so you gotta get him the fuck out of there, man. Now, today, yeah." It felt as if I had been dropped from a high-rise building. I had real trouble getting the words out of my mouth. "Your boyfriend, that cop fella, yeah, he's applied for a transfer to the murder unit, yeah? Why? 'Cause he's on to us, right? He's coming after us, right?" I didn't answer because I couldn't. Shock had me firmly in its grip. "He's asking too many questions, man, making Tom nervous. But you know all this, yeah?" Bear was investigating Sasha's death? No, can't be. And transfer? When did he apply for a transfer to the murder unit? I was under the impression that Bear was resigning from the police force. No, I didn't know that, Quibus. That he was investigating. Yeah, well, because of him, Tom is trying to kill me. What do you mean? Tom is trying to kill me. He is fucking ran me over, the bastard. Because he's scared I'm gonna cut a deal with the cops. That's why. Quibus, I thought you were involved in a motor vehicle accident. It's fucking bullshit, man. Fucking bullshit. Tom tried to run me over, man. I'm telling you, in his black Porsche. Yeah, and he stole my car keys at the scene of the accident. Wow. Me first, Warren, then that cunt you fucking. Trust me. And me, right? He's gonna kill me too, right? Nah, not you. He wants you alive, to suffer, to live in torture, and he wants to be there to see your pain, yeah. I ran my hand slowly over my face. Wow, I don't know what to... Wow. Quibus? Quibus, have you talked to the cops about this? Nah. Fucking skeletons, man. I got shit I need to protect. Besides, I would have to tell them everything, implicate myself too. I'm not dumb, you know. Yeah. Despite me believing that Tom had murdered Sasha, I was still shaken at Quibus's confession. This was Tom's friend, remember? He had no reason to lie, not when he was dying. At least that's what I believed. Quibus, tell me more, please. He nodded, then continued. As he rambled on, sometimes making sense, sometimes not. I clamped both hands across my mouth as I stood once again on that freeway, in the dark, trucks, hundreds of them, hurtling toward me. Quibus spoke so fast, just spewed out his confession rapidly, as if he was worried he'd die before I learned the truth, that I didn't even have time to come to grips with the fact that Tom had indeed murdered our baby. To summarize Quibus's ramblings, he confessed that Tom wasn't in South Africa during the time of Sasha's death. No, he was in Sydney all along, lying low, waiting to pounce. So, who was in South Africa? Quibus was, posing as Tom. Quibus the cokehead had assumed Tom's identity and travelled to South Africa, where he carefully established a paper trail on behalf of Tom. Quibus was slightly shorter than Tom. So, how did he pull off the height issue? I mean, the detectives, they would have looked out for key details like that, right? The answer is shoe lifts inserted into Quibus's shoes. So, Quibus knew too much and needed to die with all the secrets, hence the hit-and-run accident. So-called accident. Apparently, Tom had stalked me from the moment I left him. He had camped outside my apartment, watched Bear and I making out on the balcony, watched us dancing with his kids, living our lives, having fun, and he became increasingly livid. He told Quibus that he couldn't rest until he destroyed me for taking up with another man. Tom got his chance outside the grocer when I stopped for milk that day. Stealing the car was his plan all along, but the original plan was to have both children in the car when he did. Luckily for Warren, and unfortunately for Tom, Warren wasn't in the car that day. Tom's initial plan had been to frame me for both my children's death and send me to prison, strip me of that freedom I so craved. Things didn't go according to plan for him that day, but Tom still stole the car, abandoned it in a side street, and left our daughter to bake in it. Not having Warren in the car turned out to be a blessing in disguise for Tom too. After that, he had leverage over me, something he hadn't counted on. It would be a game changer for him. He could take away Warren from me at any time. But he could have fun first. Torture me by yo-yoing with my emotions. Lifting me up 1 minute by lobbying for me, helping me out with the use of a vehicle, showering me with forgiveness and gifts. Then, when the scene had been set, he would suddenly drop me from a dizzy height. Then he would sit back with a bag of popcorn and enjoy the show. It was a carefully orchestrated charade, planned for months with Purvis, hammering out the finer details, exercising extreme patience. It worked. Tom got away with the murder of his child, and I had my freedom taken away. Purvis said that Tom was distraught, not over the death of Sasha, oh no, but that I had gotten probation, not prison time. Gobsmacked with Purvis's deathbed confession? There's more. Tom went one step further. He enticed me to Canberra by scaring Warren into asking for me, causing me to violate my parole, then anonymously tipped off the cops, informed them that I was violating parole by leaving Sydney. His aim from the very beginning was to send me to prison, take away the freedom I craved and chased after. He could never forgive me for planning my getaway and succeeding. That day when I showed up with the cops at his door, he had not seen that coming. I had outsmarted him. Me, the dumb, uneducated bitch. I had outsmarted him. That's what he called me over and over again, remember? Or was it dumb, useless bitch? I could no longer remember because I hadn't been called that in such a long time. But I think it was dumb, uneducated bitch, useless thing. Something like that. Moving on. I would pay a price for crossing him. He would make sure of that. But he would set the scene first by fighting on my behalf, calling me a good mother, pleading with the police for them not to send me to prison. After all of that, no one could have accused him of setting me up. Not when he, time and time again, fought to convince law officials of my innocence. Who would believe me if I suggested that Tom was behind Sasha's death? No one. Clever Tom. Now when Bear disappeared, Tom called that an unexpected bonus and believed, now that he had full custody of Warren, I would have no choice but to move back in with him. He had believed that he had me exactly where he wanted. Checkmate. What he had not counted on was Bear returning, coming back into my life, and me resuming my relationship with him. Bear had done something Tom didn't see coming. He had sprung me from prison. That made Tom really, really mad. What made Tom furious was that Bear had managed to get me out of prison with no probation. That had blocked a vital avenue for Tom. Yeah, Bear was in the way, a major threat to Tom, so he got busy with plans to send Bear to prison for good. Frame him with something big. Yeah, he was a man obsessed and he wouldn't stop until I returned to him. I said, Quibus, what do you mean by something big? Don't know, man, but Tom, he say it's gonna be bloody, very bloody, yeah. Wow. You go to the cops, you got no proof, yeah? Best you take Warren and fuck off, disappear. Don't go to South Africa, cause he got you covered there, yeah. Go to Mexico, go to Brazil, somewhere like that. Just go, because he's coming after you, the Uzi, man. Got a fucking PI on you all the time right now. All the time? That man in the beige Peugeot, in the prison parking lot. I wasn't being paranoid after all. Run, Irina, run. Go today, now. Quibus, Why are you telling me all this?
Why? Because I'm gonna die and I think I'm gonna burn in hell for killing your baby girl, and if I confess and do one good thing before I die, then maybe Jesus will fucking forgive me, man. Right?
Confess, then you are absolved of the murder of a baby, and you are now heaven bound? I didn't think it worked that way. Absolutely not. Sure, Quibus, that's how it works, I think. Donkey Arena, donkey. Quibus, the polygraph. How did Tom pass the polygraph? Antiperspirant shit on his fingers. Mask the sweat. Really? Yeah, Valium or something to calm down the nerves. Oh my God. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. The lengths the man had gone to and succeeded. Wow. And for what reason? To punish me for leaving him, to destroy me. It was mind-boggling, and I had difficulty processing it all, including Quibus's part in it all. Here I was having a conversation with my baby's murderer, the creature who had planned the premeditated murder of an innocent child. And he had the gall to ask me for forgiveness? Was I angry with all that I learned from my baby's killer? Well, anger wasn't the emotion I was experiencing at that moment. Shock was. I was way too shocked to be angry with him, which was a good thing, or I wouldn't have learned so much about the past and the future. I pressed on with the questions. How did Tom get into my car, Quibus? Was it the spare key? Did he use a spare key? Quibus didn't get to reply because a machine started beeping loudly and nurses and doctors hurried into the ward and kicked me out of it.
I'm gonna die,
Quibus panted.
Jesus, please forgive me for all my sins.
In a daze, I stood in the hospital corridor as all that I had heard minutes ago reverberated in my brain. I told you so. It was Tom all along. You should allow me I told you so, because my instincts had never let me down. I told everyone so, but no one believed me. It wasn't their fault. Tom was so skilled a psychopath and a sociopath, a narcissist, that I was no match for him. No one was. To leave a defenseless baby in the baking hot car, your very own flesh and blood? Heartless. Yes, Tom was a heartless, soulless creature with pure black venom coursing through his veins. The question was, what do I do next? Go to the police and tell them all that I've heard? Good idea. But where's my proof? Without proof, it would be my word, a convicted criminal, against a decent father's word. That was my dilemma. Then Tom would probably stop me from seeing Warren altogether, bar me, maybe even take out a restraining order against me. But what if Quibus lived? I would be okay then, right? I could go to the cops and tell them all about it, and Quibus, he could back me up. But what if Quibus died? All proof would die with him. What do I do then? Panic overcame me at the thought of him dying. No, that can't happen. No, that must not happen. Please, God, I found myself praying, let Quibus live. I despise the evil creature, but for Sasha's sake and for Warren's sake, please let him live, please. Yes, I prayed to God to spare the life of my baby's killer. Warped, I know. I said nothing to Bear about Quibus. At that moment, I no longer wanted Bear involved in anything, in any investigation of Sasha's death, because I feared for his safety. The next day, armed with a recording device, I visited Querbus in hospital. To my relief, my baby's murderer was not dead. He was alive. My prayers had been answered. He was still hooked up to various machines though. Arena, what are you doing here? Huh? To my surprise, Querbus seemed genuinely surprised to see me. Nervous as hell too. I need to know more, Querbus. He gave me a blank stare. But what? Sasha, Querbus. Tom's involvement with her death. Her murder. I spoke slowly because of the recording device. His eyes scudded for a few moments before he snarled, "What the fuck you talking about?" His reaction took me by complete surprise. My baby, Querbus. You said that Tom stole the car with Sasha in it. You said that you helped him. I began to rattle off all the things he told me the night before. Querbus's eyes bulged with fear. Are you fucking high? Get the fuck out of here. I never said those goddamn things. I stared at him in disbelief. Yes, you did, Querbus. You said. I must have been drunk talking shit. None of it is true, okay? All lies, okay? Now get the fuck out of here, you cheating whore. I know all about you and your cop boyfriend. The cunt you ditched Tom for. You fucking him on your balcony. I know all about it. In the prison parking lot. You fucking whore. Then he glanced around and dropped his voice. And stop talking shit like that. You can't prove nothing, you hear? I began to shake with fury. Listen here, you bastard. You told me. And you leave my fucking name out of it or I'll put a bullet in your head. I'm warning you. Tom will have to stand in line to get you fucking slut. Querbus, you fucking baby killer. Get the fuck out of here before I call Tom. Go! Shaken as I was, threatened as I was, I decided to call Querbus's bluff. Call him, Querbus. I whipped out my phone and thrust it at him. Call him. Call him. Querbus glared at me, and as he did, beads of sweat formed on his forehead and upper lip. At no time did he reach for my phone to call Tom. Why? Because he was as terrified of Tom as I was. Tom was trying to kill him, remember? Nurse! Querbus yelled. Nurse! Nurse! A nurse came running into the ward to kick me out. Well, that's what I expected to happen. Still, I did not move. I was that angry. Querbus glared at me, his eyes silently urging me to leave. I glared back, phone in hand. He looked at the nurse. I'm tired. I'm in pain. Can I get some morphine? Sure, the nurse said. And some pethidine? And some double doses of everything? The nurse rolled her eyes, then looked pointedly at me. I'm going, I muttered and reluctantly left. Well, so much for going to the cops, I thought as I made my way back to Bears. They already think I'm nuts because of all the things I had said about Tom, accused him of, only to find that I had it all wrong. Now, without Querbus backing my story, I would come across as a complete psycho. Back in Bear's apartment, I paced as I evaluated the situation. What do I do now? I had no answer. All I knew that Warren was in grave danger, Bear was in grave danger because of Tom's obsession with me. Eventually, the answer came to me, and it was so simple. I needed to return to Tom. Yes, the simple solution stared me in the face. Go back to Tom and everyone will be safe. Problem solved. Fight him, refuse to surrender, and of all your loved ones killed or viciously destroyed. Go back to him and everyone will be spared. Problem solved. Simple. Perhaps. But I didn't want a life with Tom. At all. It was unconscionable to expect me to return to my abuser, my baby's murderer. No, I refused to do that. I had to find another solution. I had to murder Tom. Yes, the only way out was for me to kill Tom. I saw no other way out. I would probably return to prison, sure, but at least everyone else would be safe then. Besides, living with Tom, it was a life sentence anyway. I was pretty calm as I pondered my decision to murder Tom, surprisingly. I had been pacing and shaking and devoid of hope until I made a decision to murder Tom. Then a certain calm befell me. I guess I had been so cornered by Tom that I had no choice but to change my entire personality to cope with the situation. Become a murderer to fight a murderer. Fight fire with a flamethrower. Adapt or die. As for Warren growing up without his mother, that thought wrenched at my heart. But what choice had I? At least he would grow up. If I did nothing, he'd probably never get to live and endure a horrific death like his baby sister in the hands of his own father. There was no other way. Tom would have to die. I would have to kill him and face the consequences. Got it. Okay. I would have to get close to him first. Step number 1. Keep your murdering enemies real close. I could do that. As I ruminated over my murder plan, often out loud, a thought struck me. What if I could kill Tom without being blamed for his murder? What if I could kill Tom and get away with his murder? I wouldn't have to go to prison then. And Warren, he wouldn't have to grow up without a mother. Now that thought left me energized, a breathless, brilliant plan. The question was, how? How do I kill the bastard and not get blamed for his death? I wasn't sure, but that didn't matter. Main thing was I was going to try to do it. First, I would have to leave Bear and move in with Tom. That's right, Tom would win. I would ditch my wolf and go back into the lion's den. Okay, I would have to do that too. It had to be done. No time for sorrow over the loss of Bear. His life was on the line. The first thing I did was call my solicitor and ask her to hold back on that custody letter. After which, I visited the hairdresser and cut my long hair into a bob. I then had it colored a reddish brown, just the way Tom liked it. Back home, I fished out some of my clothes that I used to wear when I lived with Tom and put them on. Clothes I no longer wore but kept them with the sole intention of selling them on eBay. Carefully I applied makeup and sprayed on a perfume that Tom had given me years ago, one that I no longer wore because it smelled of being trapped. Feeling trapped. Then I got into Bear's Jeep and drove over to Tom's. "Arena!" Tom cried, surprise all over his face at the sight of me at his door, dressed in seduction attire, a red miniskirt and stilettos, and that Victoria Beckham hair. "Hope I'm not disturbing," I said. No. Warren, look who's here." Warren bounded into my arms. "You came, Mom, you came." I hadn't seen Warren in days, and I wanted to hug him and never let him go. But I had to curb my enthusiasm. Focus, Irina, focus. Ignore that look of confusion in Warren's eyes at the sight of your dressing, your regression. Focus. Join us for dinner? Tom said, his eyes splitting between my exposed thighs and my cleavage. Well, that depends. Are you cooking? No, I'm not. Yes, Tom giggled. Actually giggled. But what would you like? What would you like? Of course, I knew Tom never cooked. I can order it. Tell me, what would you like? Anything you want, I can get it. Eager to please. My guess was that Tom had missed me. You see, he had gotten used to having me around every day. And when I stayed away, he began to miss me. I guess Thai would be nice. Haven't had Thai in ages. I knew that Thai was his favorite food, and that day, I wanted to please him in every way possible. You've got it, he said, and rushed to the phone, and with his eyes still fixed on my cleavage, he placed the order. As he did, I looked around the house I would be returning to, the house that I had escaped from. Luxury carpets, designer furnishing in various shades of white and cream, expensive artworks to make us the envy of all in our sphere of influence, high-tech furniture, marble floors. Yet, it was never a home. It was more a showroom that courted envy and greed. I hated the place, I really did. But I had to remind myself that my son was there, and I had to do whatever I had to do to save him from his father, or whatever his father had in store for him. Tom hung up the phone and rushed over to Warren and me. Vodka? Merlot? Whiskey? Wine? What will it be? What will it be? You choose. But just wondering. I'm driving. Right. He handed me a glass of Merlot and sat across from me. Slowly I crossed and uncrossed my legs. Not quite basic instinct, but enough for my obsessor to salivate. You look fuckable, he mouthed, his eyes on my thighs. The closest Tom came to giving me a compliment. You look fuckable. Still, I rewarded him with a coy smile above the rim of my wine glass. He talked about, well, something. I didn't hear half the things he was saying. Without asking, he topped my glass, then his. Hey, I have to drive home. Stop. Relax, this is home. I told you that before. It was his turn to smile at me over the rim of his glass. Come back. No questions asked. Forgive and forget. Come back. Maybe. Tom beamed at my answer before walking over to answer the door. Our food had arrived. We three sat around the table and pretended to eat our dinner. I just couldn't eat, not after what I had heard from Quibus. But I sort of pretended to and moved food around my plate. Tom was surprisingly nervous, because he barely touched his food, drank a lot, and quickly too. After dinner, I put Warren to bed. When I walked out of the room, Tom, now drunk, took my arm and led me to the hot tub. I don't have a bikini, Tom. You don't need one, he said, tugging on the hem of my top, expecting me to resist. I didn't resist. Slowly he peeled off my top and threw it aside. Then he unzipped my skirt and let it drop to my ankles, his breathing turning raspy as he did. When he reached for my bra, I stopped him. When he reached for my G-string, I stopped him too. Easy now, tiger, I said with a teasing smile. Okay. Once inside the hot tub, he couldn't stop grinning. And I couldn't believe just how obsessed he was with me. I mean, it wasn't like I was a raving beauty or a sex kitten or anything special. In fact, I was exactly the opposite of what he wanted. I was simple, unassuming, unambitious. Tom could have any woman he wanted, and I prayed that he would sometimes stray, but he never did. When I left Tom, he probably felt like he had lost a game and that I had won, so he took revenge. Now, if Bear gets me, then Tom would lose again, this time to Bear, his rival, and that was not something Tom could live with. Winning was everything to Tom. Losing resulted in murder. When Tom started to kiss me, I turned away from him. So he pressed his body against mine and tried to dry hump me, except that we were in water, so it was more like wet humping me. Luckily, all I felt was a soggy mess against my ass. That was it. Not even a lump, just a soggy mass flattening like a pancake against my ass. Maybe he realized it too, because he began to push harder. That didn't work. Too many whiskeys, I believe. To spare him and to maintain the status quo, I moved away saying, "Gosh, you're like a hormonal teenager, Tom." He nodded as he ran his tongue slowly over his lower lip. "You still turn me on, baby," he whispered as he moved closer to me. "Yeah? Oh yeah." He grabbed my face and licked it hungrily. "Nobody makes me hard like you. 0 to solid in less than 2 seconds. Feel it." He took my hand and put it over his crotch. "See how hard I am? I want to fuck you so badly." "Yeah?" My voice was enticing. Maybe to compensate for not being able to get it up and being embarrassed about it, he began to enthusiastically detail all the things he wanted to do to me and how I should respond. "Yeah, I want to hear you call my name when I rock you, when I make you come. Want to hear you scream my name. Yeah, want to take you from behind." Oh, I dropped my head back as if I was weak with desire for him. "You like that, huh? You've always liked that, remember?" I was bored stiff with all his dirty talk that he believed was turning me on. I found it revolting. I found him revolting. But I said, "Oh yeah." When he tried to slip his fingers between my thighs, I clamped them together, stopping him. What? "Too soon, Tom." He nodded, a look of disappointment on his face. "When? Tell me when." With a kittenish smile, I ran my hand slowly over my breast and my thighs. "Soon. Tomorrow?" "Tomorrow? That's too... Come on. Well, I'll think about it." I turned to leave. He grabbed me by the waist and said, "Don't go, not yet. God, I want you so badly." He seemed so desperate. I had to ask, "Why me, Tom? There are so many other girls out there." "Nah, you do it for me from the day you first rejected me." "Rejected you? When did I ever do that?" "That day at the party, when we first met. You were the only girl who wasn't interested in me. When I looked back and I saw you looking bored and unimpressed, man, I knew you were the girl for me." I see. Well, that was true. I wasn't interested in Tom. "Then, Tom, why the hell did you treat me like shit?" "I'll change. I promise. I'll change. I already have. I'll change." "Really?" "Yeah, please, come back. I need you. Tomorrow. Everything else, bygones." I turned around to face him. "I would give it a trial, but it's also so restrictive, Tom." What do you mean? What do you mean restrictive?" "Those cameras, for instance, are pointed at the umpteen cameras around the house. My plans were deadly, murderous, and there was no way I could carry them out if I was being monitored." "I'll get rid of them tonight. I promise." "You promise?" "I promise." "Okay then." He grinned and splashed water around, clearly thrilled at the thought of me returning to him. It was so obvious that I was in seduction mode, that I had an agenda, yet Tom didn't see it. His ego colored his judgment. All that he saw was my capitulation, his outright win. I guess I could act too. When the lives of my loved ones were on the line, I could become an Oscar-worthy actress. I managed to leave without having sex with him. But I knew that I had him hankering after me, which was the plan. I felt relieved and safer now that I knew he wasn't mad at me. I knew that he wouldn't hurt Warren or Bear as long as he had hope. I had put on my own Broadway-like show, and in the process, I had given my tormentor hope. Let me rephrase that. I had given our tormentor hope. Chapter 14. As I drove home, I thought about Bear. How the hell do I tell him that I'm leaving him? Leaving him for Tom of all people? How do I live without him in my life? My heart ached at the thought of not being able to hold him, to kiss him, to hear his voice. At the thought of my day not being punctuated with his loving text, checking to see how I was, what's for dinner, what he should pick up for dinner, text that I looked forward to so much, no matter how trivial they were. Those texts, they just made my day brighter. Life without Bear. I knew what it would be like. I had experienced it months ago, remember? It was painful, excruciatingly painful. If only I could tell Bear everything, I thought. I would have liked to tell Bear everything. But I was afraid of how Bear would react and the danger that would follow his reaction. Tom was a dirty fighter, hell-bent on winning at all cost. Bear? No. I didn't think that Bear could fight as dirty as Tom could, and I believed that Tom would win. I did. So I couldn't risk anything happening to Bear. I thought I'd rather hurt him now and explain later. So I fought to stay focused and shoved all of Bear's upcoming feelings and all of mine out of my thoughts. Warren. Think about Warren, I urged myself. Tom. Think about Operation Murder Tom. Or was it Operation Kill Tom? Whatever, just stay focused. When Bear looked at my new short bob, my face caked with makeup, my short skirt, my high heels, his jaw slowly unhinged. He had been away for days, so he had missed my transformation. I believe he knew that I was leaving him right away, because he lowered himself slowly into a dining chair and looked at me with raised eyebrows. That look on his face, the shock, the hurt, the betrayal, it made me want to cry right away. But I forced myself to deliver the bad news to him. There was no easy way to do it. I just had to tell him, then leave quickly. Just, rip off the Band-Aid. I was ready to leave. There was no luggage for me to take. because I was taking nothing from my new life back into my old discarded life. I never wanted to taint my new life with my old, so I left everything behind, kept them separate. Irina, what the fuck are you saying? You want to go back to him? I can't. I don't. Irina. Irina, Bear, remember when you asked me to trust you? Because you had a good reason, Bear? He didn't answer. He just stared at me in disbelief. I need you to trust me, Bear, please. I need to do what I need to do. You need to go back to him after what he did, Irina? To Sasha? Warren? To you? That's fucked up. Bear, please. I'm not saying goodbye to you. I'm saying for a while. Trust me, I will explain later. Bear stared long and hard at me. I let him. Gave him the time he needed to process what was happening. Then he jerked to his feet, knocking the chair back and causing me to jump. I fucking love you. Hear that? I love you. I want to help you. Do what needs to be done. I know something is up, Irina, and I want you to tell me what it is. He wagged his finger at me as he spoke. Me, I stayed silent. I will kill for you, Irina. I will kill for Warren too. You hear me? What do I say to someone who is willing to kill for me? For my child? What do I say to that person? You walk out the door and we're done, Irina. Hear me? You walk out that door, we are done. I didn't say anything. Bear swallowed hard, then said, I gave you everything I could. Yet you do this to me, Irina? To us? At the sight of his raw pain, tears filled my eyes. I wanted to cry. I wanted to sob. I didn't though. I had to stay focused. I had his life on the line. It was necessary for me to shelve my emotions, my pain. For now. Bear turned and strode toward the front door. Bear, where are you going? Can't watch you walk away, he flung over his shoulder. At the door, he stopped, turned around, looked at me, squeezed his eyes shut, then opened them again and walked out of the apartment. Despite him being mad at me, Bear had left behind the keys of his Jeep for me to use, so that I had transport to leave him. With a heavy heart, I called a cab and left behind my life with the man I loved with all my heart, the man I would love till I took my last breath. Operation Kill Tom. That became the name of my mission. Yeah, Operation Kill Tom. I would be avenging the death of my baby, and I would be protecting Warren from his monster father. And Bear. Let's not forget how badly Tom wanted to hurt Bear, so I would be protecting Bear as well. 3 birds, 1 deadly rock. I began to make a list of things I needed to carry out my mission, Operation Kill Tom. I had outsmarted my abuser once. You know, when I siphoned money out of Tom's bank account and shrewdly fought my way to freedom, so I could do it again. Yeah, but this time, Tom wouldn't be in a position to exact revenge for my deceptiveness because he would be dead. Once I returned to Tom, he was on top of the world at our reconciliation, as he called it. But of course he'd be in a victorious mood. He had won, triumphed over Bear, won the girl who had ditched him, only to return with a tail between her legs. The worst part of Operation Kill Tom was when he touched me. He was my baby's murderer. He was Satan personified. So when he touched me, I felt violated, like I was being raped. At times, it felt as if I had taken 1,000 steps backwards, and I was overcome with a sense of defeat and failure. Pretending that it was Bear touching me helped a little. Just a little. I'm on a mission. I kept reminding myself, gotta do what I gotta do. Soon, it will all be over. The difference between the old Tom and the new improved Tom was the smugness. It was written all over his face, in his smile, in his tone of voice, even in his stride, taunting all the time. I have won. Checkmate. You thought you could outsmart me? Well, look how wrong you were. I outsmarted you and that gorilla of yours. Yeah. But this time, I wasn't at Pride Rock, with Scar and the hyenas watching my every move. No, the difference between the old me and the new me? This new me had plans to kill, plans to murder. I had changed. Not only did I want revenge, I wanted Tom to suffer before he died. Yeah, I had twisted fantasies of him on his knees, suffering, experiencing the same kind of pain I felt when he had wronged me over the years. I wanted him to experience the helplessness I experienced when he abused our son. The pain I endured when I realized that it was Sasha's own biological father who had murdered her in cold blood. The joy I would get when he realized who I had become, what I had become, that I was a different person. He had broken me, sure, but I had reassembled myself somehow. Beware though, this new, updated version of me was different, determined, deadlier, way deadlier than he could ever imagine. My night dreams and daydreams were filled with visions of him begging me to stop my torturing, pleading with me to help him, spare him, have mercy on him. Yeah. Remember when I said that Tom was doing just great without me? That I had messed up our lives, but Tom was doing just fine on his own? Well, I may have been wrong about that. You see, Tom had begun to drink heavily every night. Something he hadn't done when I lived with him. Would I have called him a full-blown alcoholic? No, mainly because he was on his game the following morning, up and about, fully functioning without skipping a beat. If there was a hangover, I saw no signs of it. Also, I guess I didn't know enough about alcoholism to brand him one. But clearly, he wasn't doing great. Tom had also begun to neglect himself physically. Stopped working out as often as he used to. So he had lost muscle. He had lost weight too, which would have been fine, except that without the chiseled muscles that he had painstakingly worked to maintain over the years, he was a triathlete, remember? He now presented as undefined, puny, somewhat flabby too. Oh, and add hair loss, an erectile dysfunction that often accompanies heavy imbibing, and it wasn't a pretty sight. He wasn't a pretty sight. I found him utterly repulsive to look at and to touch. Especially when he was drunk and staggering around, slurring his words. His drunken bragging, his barbs, his threats, they were all so revolting. Compared to my bear, who was naturally big and buff and overall strong and quiet, Tom began to look pathetic, like an aging meerkat from Pride Rock. Since Tom had become a heavy drinker, I, spotting opportunity, did my part to help. I plied him with whiskey every night, met him at the door with a drink in hand, then topped up his glass without him even asking for it. My plan was sinister. Yes, I wanted to turn him into a full-blown alcoholic. We were in the hot tub, and Tom was wasted as usual, courtesy of me. I had plied him with whiskey, kept topping up his glass without him asking, without him even realizing it, until he was unable to keep upright. I liked him drunk, because then he'd have trouble getting it up and pass out every night in bed, which was the point. I wanted him to leave me alone. "I can't believe you're back," he slurred. "I can't believe I'm back either," I retorted in a sarcastic voice, then quickly followed it up with, "Feels good to be back." I kicked my legs and splashed around. "It should be, because Irina, I'm it." "Yeah? Yeah. If you knew what I'm capable of, you'd admire me." "Really? Cops think they smart. Dumb pieces of shit. Shit. Me, I have the ability to outsmart them all. Detectives, cops, you name it, all of them. Seriously, whole shebang, I can outsmart them all." Yeah, I knew he was having a dig at my darling bear. "Oh, come on, Tom. They found our car with..." I stopped speaking, unable to utter my baby's name in his presence. "Yeah, 18 hours and 15 minutes later. That long? 18 hours, Irina? Give me a fucking break." His mouth curled with disgust. He shook his head. "Bunch of morons with their lie detector test and their interrogations and their investigations. Stupid pricks. No one can outwit me, Irina. No one. Not Tom Buerta, businessman extraordinaire." Okay, he had passed the lie detector test. Had to hand it to him. He's smart, all right. I cocked my head to one side and squinted at him. "No one, Tom?" He threw out his arms and puffed out his chest. "I am brilliant, baby. Your husband is fucking brilliant. You have no idea how amazing I am." He stabbed his chest with his index finger. "I am the real deal, all in one, me. I am as good as it gets. All these fuckers who think they can take me on." He fanned the air in front of him. "Generic." I quietly burned while he bragged. He was, after all, talking about how he fooled people over killing his own baby. Not how he triumphed in a business deal or something. How could I have married a man with no heart? An animal with no heart? My eyes fell on the half-empty whiskey bottle on the side of the hot tub. Suddenly, I had the urge to slam that bottle against his head, then hold his head underwater until he drowned. End of Tom. Why wait? Why? I could get away with it. After all, he had copious amounts of alcohol in his system, and in that state he could have fallen, bumped his head and drowned. Why wait? I would play the innocent wife. Yes, officer, I did swim with Tom, yes, but I left the hot tub, took a shower, and I went to bed while he continued drinking. If only I had stayed with him. If only I had stopped him from drinking so much. My poor husband. I could do it. I really could. In a trance-like state, I picked up the whiskey bottle, my heart thudding. This is how it feels before you kill someone, I thought, as I slowly waded toward Tom, my heartbeat now in my ears. Tom peered at me. Irina? Or. Suddenly, Warren's face flashed before me, his eyes wide with fear. Too obvious, Mum. I froze. It was too obvious. Far too obvious. What the hell was I thinking? My plan was not to let my son grow up without me, remember? Irina. I looked up at Tom's inquiring eyes. My eyes shifted between the whiskey bottle in my hand and Tom. Where's your glass? Want to top up your glass, Tom? Where's your glass? He held up his glass. Gotta take it easy on the booze if I don't want to look like a dirty wolf, right? Yeah, takes discipline to get this kind of physique. Know what physique means, Irina? Know how to spell it? Ha! With something between a grimace and a sneer, I listened as he explained. Bastard. I'm gonna take a shower, I muttered as I put down the potential murder weapon and climbed out of the hot tub. I had lost my chance to kill Tom. I had lost the opportunity to kill Tom. As I showered, I thought, how could Tom be this way, so broken that he could kill his own child and brag about it, as if it was an accomplishment, an achievement that he could be proud of? How does someone become so twisted? Or was Tom born broken? Why didn't I see this clear-cut fracture before and just flee? If Tom was not born broken, then when did he break? What broke him? I didn't have the answers to my questions, and I had a feeling that I wouldn't be getting them anytime soon. So I remained baffled and guilty. Guilty that I hadn't noticed Tom's psychopathy before, which could have actually saved the life of my child. As for our friends, Tom didn't outright announce my return to him. He just casually dropped something about my return in conversation. Deliberately, though. One night, while eavesdropping at his study door, which I regularly did, I overheard a conversation on loudspeaker with Mike Thomas, one of our friends hailing from New Zealand. I'll have to run it by Irina, Mike, then get back to you. She's asleep now, but I'll talk about it in the morning. His voice was casual, but Tom was making it clear that I was back and in his bed. Mike said, Arena's asleep? She's back then? Oh yeah, Mike, didn't you know? For some time now. Oh really? So you're back together then? Of course. Who can stay away from me, Mike? She just needed some alone time, and let's just say things didn't go her way at all. So she arrived at my door pleading and begging, take me back, I'm sorry, I was wrong, forgive me. Mike, I had to think about my son. You know what I mean, Mike? Anyway, forgive and forget, that's me. Some people say I shouldn't be that way toward her because of what she's done to me. Yeah. But Mike, I can't be that way. Forgive and forget. Everything else, water under the bridge. That's me, Mike. Well, Tom, that's pretty bug of you, mate. What a stand-up guy you are. Just doing my best, Mike. Just trying to be the bigger person. Anyway, she's nagging for me to join her in bed, so I better go. Ah, so it's that good with you too? Better believe it, Mike. Couldn't be better. In fact, it's better than it ever was. Has been for a while now, as a matter of fact. Smooth, right? Yep, that was Tom. Smooth operator. My therapist once told me that sociopaths and full-blown narcissists deliberately create environments of chaos and confusion to disorientate their victims. She was right. With Tom's vocal supportive behavior, I too had come to question my instincts about him at times. Was I reading him wrong? Was I simply paranoid because I needed to blame someone? Well, since his strategy worked, I decided I would use Tom's playbook to exact my revenge. I would emulate his modus operandi. I would be supportive and disarming, appear to be. But like Tom, I too would have a sinister agenda, and I would hit him when he least expected it. I decided to use what Tom was telling our friends about me, about us, to my advantage, rope them in, and in the process sow some serious confusion. I said, Tom, now that I'm back, I would like to have a dinner party with all our friends. Haven't seen them for a while, and it would be great to catch up. He said, brilliant idea. I said, who do you want to invite? He said, everyone, invite them all. So I drew up a guest list. When I showed it to him, he quickly struck off Quibus and Lenita's names. Why, Tom? Because Quibus, he's gone all fucking crazy. Really? Yeah, he thinks I'm wanting to... He thinks I'm after him. After him? What do you mean? Says I tried to run him over. What? Did you? No, I swear on my son's life I didn't. I wasn't even in Sydney that day. I was in Canberra, but he doesn't believe me. Paranoid fucker. Too much coke, that's all. Dumbass. Lenita, she called me, you know. She told me that Quibus had an accident and that he wanted to see me. Told me that he was dying. Tom's eyes started to bulge. What did he say to you? Did you go? What did he say to you? Oh, I went to see him, but he couldn't talk. He was in bad shape. I didn't go back to see him though, and I feel bad about it. So I plan to make it up to him. With his eyes to the ground, Tom ran a palm vigorously across his forehead. Is he okay though? Do you know? Yeah, he's out of hospital. He'll live. You don't have to see him. He just wants attention. Don't worry about him, okay? Don't worry about him. Oh, okay. In fact, stay away from him. From them. Block him.
block them both.
Okay, I said in my dutiful voice before I turned back to my guest list. From the corners of my eyes, I noticed Tom step away from me and pace for a while before he dialed a number. He appeared to get no answer. I watched him type a text with his lips firmly pressed together. After he sent off that text, he paced some more. It had to be to Quibus. Who else could it be? Good. I wanted Tom rattled and distracted. At the party, I could feel all our friends eyeing me, watching to see if I had only returned to Tom out of necessity. They would have read the papers. They would have known I had a boyfriend who had disappeared and who had been a person of interest to the police. Yes, I was a full-blown scandal, an errant wife, a neglectful mother. Tom had ensured that my reputation was in shreds. So, to set the stage, I was extremely attentive to Tom, calling him sweetheart and darling and accepting his artful PDAs, topping his glass, plying him with attention. He in turn, in true Tom Boerter style, presented me with a belated anniversary gift, a diamond ring. A 5-carat baguette, gaudy and as ugly as hell. But I accepted it graciously and returned fire. I presented him with my gift, a Rolex, which I paid for with Tom's credit card. Now, Tom had not been expecting a gift from me, so he was completely taken aback and clearly thrilled despite owning several overpriced watches already. As you can imagine, we were the envy of all our friends. Mission accomplished. As the evening progressed, though, Tom became so drunk, thanks to me, he began to slur his words and stagger around. Being the dutiful wife that I was, I helped him up when he stumbled, helped him to his chair, and even fed him at times. Yes, I was his enabler. Everyone could see that. But so as not to overdo my act, I did the responsible thing. I replaced his whiskey with water. Water with lemon, mint, and vodka. Then, over dinner, Tom's head dropped into his plate of beef, red Thai curry, and remained there. The sleeping pill I had added to his drinks had taken effect just when I hoped they would. Me, I pretended to be deep in conversation and didn't notice. When my frantic guest drew my attention to Tom's slumber, I raced to help him. "Oh, honey," I said, mopping his face, "I think you're a little tired tonight." Then, with the help of Mike, our New Zealand friend, helped him toward our bedroom. Remember when Tom said to Mike that he just wanted to be the bigger person? Well, now Mike got to see Tom, the smaller person. "No, I want to go in the hot tub," Tom slurred. "Not tonight, sweetheart." My voice was firm as we dragged him to bed and tucked him in. When I returned to the dinner table, I apologized profusely to our guests and asked them to excuse Tom as he had been through a lot. "Yeah, we can see he's not coping very well," one of them said. "Yes, he's really depressed, but he's promised to go to AA soon, so I'm, hopeful." "I just wish he wouldn't get into the hot tub when he's drunk, though. It's so dangerous, and it really scares me." I looked at my guests with tears in my eye. Yeah, my plan was also to drown Tom in the hot tub. You know, use the tools that I had to secure my freedom, his alcoholism and his love of the hot tub. Maybe drop his phone into the hot tub while it's being charged, cord and all. Not a bad plan, right? I mean, I now had a group of people, more than 10, who had witnessed Tom being blind drunk and falling asleep at the dinner table. How humiliating. For Tom. Plus, they heard Tom asking to go into the hot tub while he was drunk, fighting me to get into it. My story about Tom drowning in the hot tub while drunk would be plausible. It would be. I was excited. My plan to murder Tom was falling into place, and soon I would be a widow and free of my tormentor. Well, my plan didn't go so smoothly. No, when Tom awoke the next morning, he was greeted by a barrage of texts from our friends wanting to know if he was okay. When he learned what happened, he was terribly embarrassed by his behavior the night before and confused. How did I get so wasted? He asked. I didn't drink that much. Oh, Tom, you were just tired. Honey? Yep, so confusion. I had. And I also had written proof from friends concerned about Tom's behavior, begging him to stay away from the hot tub whenever he drinks. Victory for me, yay! Well, my victory was short-lived. You see, Tom was so embarrassed by his behavior, he decided to quit drinking. That's right, my plan had backfired. Worse, when Tom decided to stop drinking and go cold turkey, he became morose and miserable and irritable toward me and Warren. My plan began to unravel at a rapid pace to my dismay. Plan B would have to come into effect. What was Plan B? Killing Tom and going to prison for life. I began to weigh my options. Hit him on the head while he was in the hot tub? I could do that, except after he quit drinking, he stopped going into the hot tub, remember? The only way I could get him into the hot tub was to drag him into it, and that wasn't going to happen. The hot tub was no longer a murder opportunity. I had missed that. Poison him? Yeah, I could poison him. Slip it into his food, his drink. Yeah, I could do that, of course. But what poison could I use? Where would I get it from? Would there be an autopsy? Of course there'd be an autopsy, and I would definitely go to prison over his death, his murder. Push him down the stairs. I could bash him over the head and say he fell downstairs, like that TV series The Staircase, couldn't I? Childish, amateur plans, I know, but I was in my 20s, and I really wasn't criminally minded. I was determined, sure, but I lacked the wherewithal for murder. There would be intense drama after Tom's death, and I would probably be arrested right away. I knew that. Maybe even denied bail. I mean, we were talking murder here. Self-defense? It would be hard to claim self-defense or claim that my husband had been abusing me because I had no solid history with the police about Tom's abuse. And let's not forget that I had returned to live with Tom. With little choice, I had to accept that I would have to find a way to murder Tom, then just face the consequences. That meant I would have to say goodbye to my son. It had to happen. I hated that thought so much. Warren would be motherless and fatherless. He would have to go to South Africa and live with my family. How would he see me then? How would he visit me after that? He wouldn't be able to. So I would probably have to kill Tom, go to prison, and never see my son again. I guess those thoughts, those unavoidable consequences, are what caused me to hesitate with my plans to murder Tom. I hadn't given up on murdering Tom. I just hesitated because of my son. So life in the meantime drifted painfully along. Pride Rock, Sepia, and Sinister loomed in front of me. Scar stalked me. The hyenas circled. To listen to more of Eve Rabi's audio works on YouTube, please like this post and subscribe.